in my home city. We live across from the park, and my high school is on the other side of the park. And you can imagine my surprise when I ended up back in my hometown overlooking the high school. But which in the end turned out to be a great decision. But when I was in high school and wanted to see the world, Atlanta is where I first went, because Atlanta still is the door to the international world from the South. And of course, at the time, I didn't know that it would become such an international hub. And from there, I went to Vanderbilt Law School, where I met Mark in a class on international law. And if you can imagine, again, I wanted to see the world, so I took a class on international law and met Mark Maloney. And the rest is history, shall we say. But it's been my privilege to travel the world with Rotary actually for many, many years. But this particular year, Mark and I have circumnavigated the globe twice. We've been, going northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, all around. And from this travel, I am more and more convinced that Rotary is just remarkable. And I do think at this time, this is a time when we think, well, can Rotary keep that togetherness through this COVID time? And from what I have witnessed around the world, I can say, yes, it can. Because what draws people to Rotary is something larger than the virus. It's something that is more personal connection than whatever in this world we may experience. And so I'll share just one vignette of why I consider Rotary just so important. Mark and I were in Vietnam, and we were where we were there with Rotarians from California and from Korea. And they were doing an Operation Smile. Some of you may have heard me talk about this before. But the young man who had his baby there, who had her cleft lip and palate repaired, he shared with us through an interpreter that because he was Buddhist, he and his wife chose for her not to have an abortion. They knew before this baby was born that it had a cleft lip. And Operation Smile, with the support of the Rotarians, gave this young man hope, gave this young man promise. And when, after the surgery, he gave me a hug that of all the hugs I've experienced this year was the best. It was just really wonderful. So that is just an example. Now, maybe we can't hug in just the same way that we could, but we can smile. We can share our thoughts and our hopes and our dreams for a peaceful world. And it is still a privilege, and it will always be a privilege to have had this remarkable opportunity to be the First Lady of Rotary this year. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. It is such wonderful words and such a beautiful smile, and we're so happy to have you with us and continue our friendship, even if it's virtual and if it's our hugs. So we'll move on to our primary speaker today, Mark Daniel Maloney, President of Rotary International, and I assure you that Mark is very well versed in Rotary. He's done everything that there is to have been done until he now has become the president of Rotary International. And such a wonderful year, such an humbling honor to get to serve with he and Gay that I've known for the years now. I was excited when I heard Mark's theme for the year, Rotary Connects the World. But even as much as I respect Mark Daniel Maloney and admire his leadership and his enthusiasm, I just got this sneaky feeling that Mark Daniel Maloney had no idea just how appropriate his theme was going to be in this time. Mark, I'm proud to serve with you. I'm proud to serve for you. And I'll ask you if you will come and share some words of wisdom with us as Rotary connects the world, and you're the leader of it. When I first said, Mark, I called Mark up in this pandemic and I said, Mark, how are you doing today? The first word out of his mouth was the one I expected. From Maloney, I expect a smile. From Mark Maloney, I expect the word fabulous. And that's the word he gave me. Mark, the mic's all yours.
Thank you. It's a fabulous day. It's mainly fabulous because 41 years ago today, Kay and I were married right here in Decatur, Alabama, over at First Methodist Church, just about 6 blocks from here. And it's a great day. After we meet with Rotary Club of Hall County, Kay and I are taking the rest of the day off. We're going to drive up the back roads to Nashville, and we're going to my sister's house. We're going to have dinner with my sister outside, 2 separate tables, table for my sister and her husband and a table for Gay and for me. And that will be our first meal with anyone other than ourselves since March the 13th. And so that's a big event. This is last night was the 78th night in a row that the president of Rotary International slept in his own bed in his own house. And that sets a new record. It's got to set a new record. And, you know, I was talking with somebody and they said, oh, you probably have to go back to World War II. Well, I think even in World War II, at least I think the presidents were American through those years, they were probably traveling around the United States and didn't spend 2.5 months straight at home. And so we're setting a new record, records that we'd not hoped to set. Now, David, what kind of Aloha shirt do you have on today?
I have something K, okay? It's over here. It's not like one you're going to normally see, but I do have one on for you.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got our host organizing committee Aloha shirts on because we're supposed to be in Honolulu. And, but that's not the way life turned out. So instead, we are talking to you from the studio of the presidential studio for the Rotary International Virtual Convention. And this is set up in the law library, one of the law libraries in our office, our law office. And you see we have the background, and what you don't see are a tripod and a ring light and boxes that the laptop sits up on top of so that they can run the teleprompter. And this is where Gay and I record our messages, have recorded our messages that will be part of the virtual convention. And I want to encourage all of you to participate in the virtual convention. The virtual convention, save the dates, will be June 20 to 26. There will be general sessions on Saturday and Sunday mornings, June 20 and 21 at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And if for some reason 9 a.m. is not a good time for you, you're a late sleeper or you're off to church early or something like that, every session will be recorded so that you can come back and look and view the session afterwards. But later this week, registration will be available for the virtual convention. You can attend the convention from the comfort of your own living room. There's no fee to register. However, you do have to sign up in advance in order to get access to the platform that the convention will be live streamed on. So I encourage all of you to sign up and go to riconvention.org to find out information about the convention. And this convention, this virtual convention, is just an example of how Rotary has made the pivot, has accepted what the circumstances are, and moved from operating in an in-person environment to operating in a virtual environment. Just like the Rotary Club of Hall County having its virtual meeting today. I suspect this is not your first meeting. That's your first virtual meeting, that you've been doing this for several weeks. And, you know, used to be when you were meeting in person, you didn't have to put up with David Stovall every week because he would be gone many places. Well, now he can join you all the time on these virtual meetings. So there are some disadvantages to that, I know. But anyway, I congratulate you for undertaking this virtual meeting endeavor. This is very important. Even though it's extremely important that we continue our community and international service, I firmly believe that at this time, our number one service that we can render is to engage our membership. We need to engage Rotarians, keep them connected with Rotary, keep everyone connected with each other to support each other through this time, and so that we will have additional Rotarians, so that all these Rotarians will be with us when we return to some sense of normalcy. It's very, you know, on these Zoom meetings, there's that icon at the bottom that says participants. And I encourage you in your club meetings to click on that box and on that icon. And over on the right-hand side of the screen, a list will appear that shows the names of all of the people who have joined in the meeting. And what is most important when you do that is not the list of people who are there, it's the names of the people who are missing. Who in your club, week after, I'm not talking about an occasional absence, but who in your club, week after week, is not showing up at the meeting. You as Rotarians need to reach out to those individuals. See if they're in some sort of need, health-wise, financially. Some people may be facing financial difficulties during these times and are embarrassed about that. What can we as Rotarians do to assist? Remember, Rotary was started not as a service organization. Paul Harris was establishing a networking organization. And we need to hearken back to that during these specific times and network with our fellow Rotarians. We need to remain connected because Rotary connects the world. And if you have a neighboring club that hasn't quite found their way to having some sort of virtual meeting, you know what to do. You need to mentor that club because you know what to do. Ask them to join your meetings like you've asked many Rotarians from District 6910 to participate here today. Help them get set up on their own to have their own meetings. We must strive to engage every Rotarian in the world to keep them connected with each other. And I've been so proud of what Rotarians are accomplishing in terms of service beyond inside Rotary. We have seen clubs all over the world undertaking fantastic COVID relief projects. From the Rotary Club, the Rotary districts, the 13 Rotary districts in Italy all got together and have organized projects worth a total of 10 million euros. and they are installing sophisticated triage equipment in 28 primary hospitals across the country. And of course, we've seen that they're having success in bringing the number of cases down within Italy, and Rotary can share in the credit for that. Rotarians in California organized a production line, basically, to make masks, not masks, but the shields, the clear plastic shields that are needed by frontline workers. And those Rotarians, very early on in the pandemic, set aside 2 weekends, went into hotel ballrooms that were these huge rooms that weren't being used, set up tables in a socially distant way, and manufactured 30, I think it's now actually 60,000 masks that have been manufactured and distributed throughout the Los Angeles, the greater Los Angeles area. A tremendous impact. Rotarians in Bangladesh are bottling and distributing 30,000 or more bottles of hand sanitizer to those who cannot afford it otherwise. Rotarians are answering the call all over the globe. And they're answering the call for other issues. Here we are in the middle of a pandemic. India is seeing the number of cases continue to increase, probably because of the crowded conditions in the Indian slums. And then they have this cyclone Amphan that strikes the state of West Bengal, the area around Calcutta, with tremendous damage, and Rotarians are out responding to provide disaster relief. I see a bright future for Rotary. This may seem like some dark days and it's a dark cloud over the world, and it is a dark cloud. However, every cloud has a silver lining. And I think the silver lining is that we have seen that those old fogey Rotarians can adapt, they can innovate, they can be flexible. And we've seen that. We have, folks who are older in the hills who have figured out Zoom and having all these meetings. Even yes, Mark Maloney, I can schedule a Zoom meeting. That's one of the skills I've acquired. I never thought I would acquire that skill, but that's one of the skills I've acquired in the last few months as the president of Rotary International. Rotary bought me a Zoom subscription, and I have actually used it and successfully conducted, sent the notice out and had people actually join in at the right time. I'm so proud of myself. And, but they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, I'm trying to prove that wrong. Hopefully, as we innovate, we will see that there are many ways to do Rotary. Most of us are used to a rather traditional Rotary club. But now we're seeing Rotary clubs created around causes. Rotary clubs created around certain groups of individuals. Well, in the cause example, we've just had a Rotary club formed in Minnesota to fight human trafficking. We've had also in Minnesota a Rotary club organized for veterans. In Maine, there's been a Rotary club organized for RILA alumni. And there are eco clubs now, clubs focusing on the environment. And of course, we're used now to e-clubs, and all of us are now e-clubs right now, except maybe in Taiwan, where I think they're back to meeting in person. But we are adapting, and hopefully with that adaptation, we will be more attractive than ever to a younger demographic. So it's my pleasure to be with you all here today. And David, if there's something specific you want for me to address, let me know. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer questions. Dave has something to say though first.
President Mark and First Lady Gay. It's such an honor to have you.
Gay had something to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gay.
Thanks, Kim. Keep them straight.
I just wanted to say that one of the events that did not happen this year that we had been looking forward to is that better? All Georgia event that we were going to have at Agnes Scott College, of course, my alma mater. So I wanted to say thank you, though, for so many of you who were involved in organizing that we would have seen back in April if that event had taken place. I also wanted to say thank you for the Georgia Scholars Program, the Rotary Scholars in Georgia. Over the years, I was actually the president of the Alumni Association at Agnes Scott and a trustee at Agnes Scott, and often had the opportunity to meet some of the Georgia Rotary scholars, one of whom I became very close to, Sasha Mendesh Wagner now, who also, she lived in Georgia for many years and in recent years has been in Boston. And you were there, the Georgia Rotarians were there when she was separated from her family in the early 1990s. She was from Sarajevo. And so just thank you for what you do in Georgia for these scholars over the years. And thank you for the effort you made to organize what would have been a special event for us at Agnes Scott in April. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mark and First Lady Gay. So humbling and exciting to have you here with us today. And as always, for both of you, just a fabulous presentation. I do have a couple of questions in the chat box, if you wouldn't mind just a couple of questions.
Let's go.
First of all, what is one surprising lesson you've learned as RI president?
Well, the major lesson I've learned, I'm not sure how surprising it was that even though the outward appearance of Rotary is different around the world, you know, the Japanese are very formal with their Rotary meetings and their Rotary functions. Other areas are not so formal. They all have each Rotary in each country tends to have its own personality. But the service that Rotarians provide all over the world is just incredible. The projects that are being undertaken, the commitment that Rotarians have, whether it's in Japan, in Fukushima Prefecture, responding to the conditions following the triple whammy of the earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear disaster, to Guatemala, where entire cities seem to be adopted by Rotary clubs. And they provide the basic social safety net. Rotarians provide the basic social safety net. So that's, maybe it's not a big surprise, but you know, seeing how different Rotary can be, but yet how much it can still accomplish.
And the second part of that question is there anything that keeps you up awake at night as the president of Rotary?
Oh my goodness. I mean, right now, I do worry about member engagement, and that, you know, I focused on that point earlier. I think it's very important that we work to engage our members. And in fact, it's so important that last week I met virtually with all of the current and incoming Rotary coordinators around the world in 2 different sessions, one in the morning, one in the evening, so that we could capture all the different time zones to encourage them to work with district governors, district membership chairs, and other district leaders to make sure that Rotary clubs are meeting and engaging their members. Secondly, I am concerned about, you know, the circumstances that some Rotarians find themselves in. I'm convinced that there are some Rotarians. Well, I mean, I've heard anecdotal stories about Rotarians who've just lost everything. Their business has just disappeared as a result of the pandemic. And we need to be reaching out to those Rotarians. We need to be developing systems to where we can connect Rotarians who have things to offer, a job or particular services that would help, with those who need assistance in a way that doesn't embarrass anyone. And as a matter of fact, I am working with Rotary staff right now to address such a plan.
Wonderful. Again, Mark and President Mark, First Lady Gay, thank you so much for being with us today. What an honor to have you in Gainesville, Hall County, Georgia. And happy anniversary. Safe travels up to Tennessee and to be with your family. We'll be there with you in prayers for a happy day.
I do want to say that I've noticed on this call that Richard Panic's on the call, that David Roper, David and I were governors together. He was governor of your district when I was governor here in Alabama back in 1989-90. Who else did I see? Joe Whittemore I saw on there. I haven't seen Joe in ages.
Robert Hall.
Yeah, well, Robert Hall, we didn't want to mention him, but anyway.
Floyd Lancia is on the call, a fellow director from west of here, Mark.
Yeah, Floyd Lancia got lost or something and ended up on this call. and I'm sure there's some district leaders who I didn't quite pick up as I just whipped through the pages, but just want to thank all of them for participating.
And thank you for noting that. I had meant to do that. Just a little bit of bragging rights for the Rotary Club of Hall County. With about a little over 40 members, we have 4 past district governors, Lona Pope, Diane Camerata, Kim Waters, and myself. So we have bragging rights for the district on that.
Kim, you and Kim are in the same club?
I'm in Kim's clubs, the way she says it.
Well, Gay and I, Gay declared there's no Rotary Club in the world big enough for both of us, so we're in separate Rotary clubs.
All right, great to have you with us today. Thank you for all of our visitors being with us today. We are going to, as if we were concluding our meeting, close out as we normally would, and then our particular members will stay around if you want to do happy dollars and chit chat. Thank you so much for being with us today. If you would remain muted, but visibly and verbally in your own ears, join us as we recite the 4-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And as our member Don Crane would lead at this point, is it fun? And that's what we believe about in the Rotary Club of Hall County. Thanks for being with us today, and our members will stay around for just a little bit. We'll do our happy dollars.